Hi, my name is Elena Taylor, and today I will be presenting my art project on Things Fall Apart. First, I'd like to give some background information on paper sculptures. As we all know, paper has been around for quite some time, since the 1870s to be exact, and has served numerous purposes along the way. Writing, painting, drawing, sketching, but who would have thought it would be used for sculptures? Paper sculptures surfaced in the early 1900s and are still around today. Paper sculptures use multiple techniques such as cutting, folding, scratching, tearing, piecing, bending, punching, rumpling, and gluing. Artists use these techniques to bring the paper and artwork to life. Instead of flat pieces of colored paper glued to a flat piece of white paper, these techniques turn a 2D artwork into a 3D artwork. You can make 3D grass by cutting lanky strips of green paper and curling and bending them whichever way you would like. When viewing paper sculptures, you'll be able to identify these certain techniques and realize what a true art form paper sculpting actually is. We used many of the same techniques in our project that were previously listed. Paper sculptures can portray literary things or metaphorical things, just like any other type of art. I chose tradition versus change as my topic for this project. The book, Things Fall Apart, is full of tradition and change. It starts out with a village strictly based on traditions, such as wearing a mask during the annual ceremony to honor the earth deity, killing babies if they were born twins, or the week of peace. This village thrived on strict tradition and believed it through and through. They weren't just traditions, they were a way of life. This is why Okonkwo was so quick to show repentance through sacrifices when he beat his youngest wife during the week of peace. This book is also chock full of change. Granted, the change is not wanted, but it is forced upon the villagers. Christianity starts to seep into daily life due to Mr. Brown and his interpreter, Mr. Kaiga. They don't force this new religion upon the villagers, they merely teach their ways and explain how by worshipping more than one god, they are not properly worshipping the one and only God. Even though the villagers did not appreciate the fact that these missionaries came in and were telling them that their rituals and traditions were wrong, at least Mr. Brown did not allow antagonization towards the clan. Unfortunately, Mr. Brown grew ill and was swiftly replaced with a much more strict man, Reverend Smith. Reverend Smith was intolerant towards the ways of the villagers of Umuofia, which meant he forced Christianity upon them and gave them no other choice. This strict act of change led to Reverend Smith's church being burned down. The villagers had had enough of this forced change and refused to live by Christianity. Due to this book's constant trend of tradition and change, I found it relatively easy to portray three key elements in my artwork. This piece represents the tradition and change for the villagers of Umuofia. There are two sides to this piece, the left side, which portrays strict tradition, and the right side, which symbolizes forced change. On the left side, there's a baby in a pot. This isn't as symbolistic as it is literal, due to the fact that the clan would kill babies that were born as twins. The way they went about killing these babies was rather specific. There were two ways. One way they went about it was by bashing the two babies against a tree trunk until they died. The other way they terminated twin babies was by placing them in large pots and suffocating them to death. When we hear about such casualties, we can't even imagine treating a newborn like that. But we have to remember that this was a tradition that had been passed down from generation to generation and was second nature to all the people of the clan. I used a dark brown colored background for the tradition side to symbolize the coming of Mr. Brown. I decided to use this color as a background color because Mr. Brown blended with the villagers more. He listened to their point of view and did not try to eliminate their traditions all at once. He was more understanding towards the clan and wanted to slowly bring change upon them. The color brown is a mixture of all the colors, much like how Mr. Brown mixed his duty to convert all the people of Umuofia to Christianity and his understanding characteristic to proactively teach the villagers about the new religion. Now I will explain the orange zigzag that runs down the middle of my artwork. I believe this aspect of my piece is rather obvious. The zigzag represents the overall conflict of tradition and change throughout the book. The villagers fight this constant oncoming change with stimulated frustration, thus the zigzag is orange. Orange is a color that is used to portray change, simply because in nature, when the leaves are changing, orange is the primary color seen throughout the entire color change of the leaves. Orange is also used as a stimulating color, Relating to the book, the villagers were stimulated to burn down Reverend Smith's church because of the change he had forced upon them. Another aspect that plays a role in describing the plot of the book is the shape of the line. The line separating the two sides is a zigzag. In art, diagonal and zigzag lines refer to danger and instability. I use this type of line to help foreshadow the danger that lurks behind the concept of change in the book. No one knows that Reverend Smith takes charge. No one knows that after Reverend Smith takes charge that his church will be burned down, and that later on Okonkwo will end up hanging himself due to the fact that his clan will not join him in ending this dramatic change. The instability is incorporated because even though the missionaries believe this change of religion will create stability and a healthy way of life, it does quite the opposite. The clan ends up losing all previous stability and one of their greatest leaders. The last aspect of my artwork that I will explain is the vines that wrap around the cross on the right side. As I have previously stated, the right side of my piece represents the change aspect. When the missionaries came to Mbanta, their goal was to convert the villagers to Christianity, thus the large cross. What they didn't expect was such a struggle to do so. When they arrived, Mr. Brown did an excellent job of understanding but at the same time enforcing Christianity. When Reverend Smith took charge, a struggle started to occur. The villagers felt as if their religion was being strangled, much like the vines are doing to the cross in my artwork. The vines tightly wrap around the cross with a constricting grip, which is exactly what Reverend Smith did to the villagers. This active force leads to destruction both in the book and in real life. When something is used to wrap around something else, eventually what is being bound has no room to thrive. This wraps up my Things Fall Apart paper sculpture project. Thank you for listening.